Because if only we had a professionally put together open for him on his final appearance of the season. Oh, wait, we do.
Touchdown! San Francisco!
He has nearly 40 years of broadcasting in Northern California. The voice of the San Francisco 49ers, Greg Papa. Sponsored by Sunpoint Public Adjusters, the gold standard of the public adjusting industry.
It's bittersweet because one of my favorite parts of this job is getting to talk to one of my announcing heroes each and every week, the voice of my favorite football team. On the other hand, although we may visit here or there, depending, of course, he's always available to us because he's a good guy. But officially, we say goodbye until late August, early September. Joining us right now, the voice of your San Francisco 49ers, Greg Papa. Good morning.
And we're going to do it on January the 10th.
I know.
Wow.
Too soon.
I remember one year on January the 9th, the Niners played the LA Rams, week 18, 17th game of the year. They had to win that game to get into the playoffs. New Orleans had won the game earlier in the day, and we scrambled back. I remember Amber Thomas had the big interception against Matthew Stafford in overtime to ice the game. It was the same night Klay Thompson came back after 941 days away with an Achilles, then an ACL, then an Achilles. So January the 10th, it was January the 9th. The regular season was just wrapping up. What the hell am I going to do with myself? I'm going to watch a lot of football. I'm going to be coming through Sactown on the way up to Tahoe and ski a lot in January. So I guess the good thing is I haven't had a chance to ski much the last couple of Januaries, and I'll get a chance this January.
Okay. Make the most of that. That's for sure.
Stop by on your way up.
Yeah.
There's always an open chair for you. Maybe
I'll go to Golden. I've never been to Golden once. So
What?
I got to go there.
Oh,
Never
Seriously?
been there.
Greg, come on. Just say the word. Jason's got connections. I used to.
Yeah.
So, just come on down.
Wow.
I'll be texting.
There you go. I know we're going to get into the Niners, but just, Greg, you know all these teams. You follow all these teams. If you were picking, who would you see, not necessarily want to see, but who do you think is getting to the Super Bowl?
Well, I want to see from the AFC.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I think this is the year, although I did the game on Sunday, it's going to be a tough one against Denver. What a great defense they have. And they did go into Orchard Park and beat the Bills last year in a Monday night game. And they wound up firing their offensive coordinator right after the game. So, Kansas City is still the best team in football. We'll see how the 22-day delay since the last meaningful game they had to play. Mahomes' ankle was pretty gimpy, but he was still finding a way, and they'll get Chris Jones back. So I would think in the AFC, to me, there are clearly three teams above the rest, and it's Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore. The way that the seeding is, assuming they get there, Buffalo or Baltimore is going to have to beat the other one and then go to Arrowhead and beat Kansas City. Unless somebody rises up, could the Chargers beat Kansas City? Could one of the lower seeds sneak in there? Houston won their division, so they're going to host a home game. But in the AFC, it's pretty much between, to me, Kansas City, Buffalo. I think Baltimore is a little bit behind them. I would say one of those two. So it's kind of what's been going on in the AFC the last several years. That's why it's hard to look at the NFC, because the Niners were Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo. We knew we were going to in. It's just, are we 1, 2, 3? Where are we? And not to go in at all is tough, but you do, Dallas is in the same situation, and you got some new blood in the NFC. Minnesota's in this year, and Washington's in. I would say Detroit in the NFC. We saw them, obviously, December the 30th on that Monday night. Their offense is as good as anybody's in football, including Buffalo's. Their defense has just been so ravaged by injury, but they got Alex Anzalone back for their showdown game last Sunday night against the Vikings, and that was not the same defense the Niners had spinning around in circles. They look great. I don't know if they game planned as much for our game, knowing it wasn't important for them in seeding. The Minnesota game was everything, and they played like it. They had a blitz package, and they were so good in the low red zone. So I would say Detroit because of Ford Field, because how explosive that offense is. But I do think Philadelphia is a worthy challenger. Now, I assume the quarterback's going to be fine coming off concussion protocol. They have a few other injuries, A.J. Brown, but I think he'll play. Their defense is probably the best in the NFC. So I guess I'm looking at. I guess I'm boring. I guess I'm going chalk. My Final Four would be Philadelphia and Detroit in the NFC, and Buffalo and Kansas City in the AFC. I mean, am I missing somebody here? Who could rise up from? Do you think Minnesota from 5 or the Rams? I don't think Tampa Bay necessarily as a 3 seed can get it done, or Washington. Who am I missing here? Calling basically 1-2 seeds in each conference.
I mean, you could throw. You mentioned the Ravens and their issues. The Chargers are, Jim Harbaugh in his first 2-4 years is one of the best coaches ever. The Broncos are well coached. I agree with you. I have the same chalk. I think Jason does too. We're all boring. But let me go a step further, Greg. I know you've got those Buffalo roots, and you'd love to see the Bills and taking the Niners out of it, obviously, because they are. That you just kind of rolled over it. But let's just stop for a second. Lions, Bills, Super Bowl. We've been talking about it for weeks over here. That is a dream matchup, I think, for any football fan who can't have their own team in it, because one way or another, a historically downtrodden, losing, heartbroken franchise is going to walk away with a ring.
So you're talking Bills-Lions?
Yeah, Bills-Lions.
Bills-Vikings should be the same way.
That's true. I don't know why I don't put the Vikings. I should. Yeah.
I mean, the Vikings have gotten to Super Bowls.
Yeah.
They lost them all. They've lost 4. The Bills have lost 4, and they were all in a row. Detroit has never made a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Their last championship was 1957 when they came back against the Niners at Kezar and were able to win with Tobin Rote, the quarterback. So they've never been to a Super Bowl, and they've been in the league every year since we started playing for Super Bowls. Who else can make that claim? Yeah. There's a lot of teams that have never been to a Super Bowl and never won a Super Bowl, but a lot of them were expansion teams. As far as the teams that were in the league in 1970, you tell me. Who's been in the league all these years and never been to a Super Bowl? So that would be, I mean, does the country want Buffalo and Detroit? The Rust Belt Super Bowl? I mean, I guess after that game they played at Ford Field late in the year, may have been the best game of the season. They both got into the 40s and it went back and forth. I think in that case, the Bills would probably win the game. Detroit's defense has a hard time. Now, would Aiden Hutchinson come back off the broken leg to play in a Super Bowl? I don't think they're going to get a Liam McNeil back. The 3 technique. They could get David Montgomery back before then. So, or Carlton Davis III, the great corner who broke his jaw. So they're going to get pieces back that would impact that matchup. But is that what America wants? America does not want Kansas City again.
Screw America. That's the right matchup.
What would probably be the biggest ratings? KC, Philadelphia?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I mean, would America want Buffalo? I don't, who cares what America wants? A lot of things they want we shouldn't have. It's not good for us. Starting a week from Monday, but I digress. Anyway, but is that what the country would want? Would be Buffalo, Detroit? Is that what you guys are hoping for?
Yeah, I think it'd be fun just on the unique part of, especially not having San Francisco there. And speaking of that, Greg, what's the quickest return to get them back? Like, it's still a talented team. Certainly injuries. I know defensive line you've talked about has to get better. How do they get on the fastest track to get this team back in this mix?
They need to get back in the mix, but I also think slow and steady wins the race. You can't cut corners. I think you got to get out of the game where you're buying so many free agents every year and building D-lines and secondaries. And they drafted well. They had a really good draft in 24. They need another one in 25. They need to keep doubling down on draft picks. They need kind of what they built in 17, 18. And the 17 and 18 drafts weren't great. They missed a lot of players. But in 17, they got George Kittle. In 18, they got Fred Warner. I mean, you keep stacking, Hall of Fame players here and there. But you got to fill it out. Renardo Green was a sensational pick. That guy's going to be a big-time player. Ricky Pearsall, big-time player. We haven't even seen his skill set on full display yet. Dominic Pooney, Malik Mustafa. They had a really good draft class. They got to get more. They got to hit the number 11 pick if they stay at 11, or if they trade up or back. They got to nail that pick. And I'm watching the Cotton Bowl last night, or the Orange Bowl last night. The Cotton Bowl's tonight. Watching Notre Dame and Penn State, my eyes were just on the 2 Penn State players. Number 11, the defensive end Carter, number 44. I don't even know what position that guy plays. He's 260-pound tight end, H-back. I mean, who the hell is that guy? He's Taysom Hill. Well, he literally might be on steroids. I don't know, but he's just a monster. I'm not implying that. But we know up in Napa, Brock Bowers, what a high school career he had at Georgia. Look what he did for the Raiders. So I don't know if you want to take a player like that so high, but just you to answer your question, get healthy. You got to get Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey back. And they're getting older. They got a lot of miles on. They've had bad injuries. They got to get over it. Is Brandon Ayuk going to make training camp on time? Is he going to make the start of the year? He tore his ACL and his MCL. And I'm not even sure what else went on in that knee. That was a bad injury. So that was, October the 20th or something? That's Kansas City. What's the timeline on that for him to come back and be able to start the year in less than a year? So get healthy, obviously, stay healthy. But then along the way, you gotta stack draft picks. You gotta hit, if you can have another draft like you just had. And then even going back the year before, getting Jair Brown and others, you just got to keep nailing draft picks. It's the easiest way in the NFL to develop your team. It's not cheap labor because they all make a lot of money, but it's less expensive labor to do it through the draft. Even ones are affordable, and that's the way you build a culture. Look at Philadelphia's defense. How have they turned that defense around? It's unbelievable. I thought they were too young. They have all these Georgia Bulldogs barking up and down the defense, linebackers, secondary. They're everywhere. And you're like, well, those guys are great college players, but they're going to bust in the NFL. They're too young. Vic Fangio has them tight. They are not busting. And that's one of the best defenses in football. That's why I put Philadelphia right there with Detroit and whoever else you want to mention in the NFC, because they probably are the most complete team. Their defense is that good. And they've got obviously explosive nature when they're completely healthy on offense. So, let's get there quick. And obviously just get the veteran guys healthy. But also just keep stacking drafts. You got to keep nailing guys because you're going to have to let some of these guys go when the quarterback's money goes up. And I'm wondering about being able to pay Dre Greenlaw. Can you afford 2 off-the-ball linebackers that are making, Fred's one of the highest paid linebackers in football, second highest behind Roquan Smith in Baltimore. And then Fred, can you afford to have another high-priced linebacker? Teams don't pay off-the-ball linebackers that much. The Rams don't pay a single one. They let them go. They trade him. Ernest Jones IV is up for that kind of deal. They got rid of him. So can you afford to keep Dre? So there's the salary cap component makes it so important. When your high-priced players are on the sidelines and not playing, it really hurts your football team. So you got to get your stars back and healthy, obviously, but then you got to keep replenishing your roster every year. So I think this offseason is huge. What do they do in free agency? But more importantly, what do they do April 24th, 25th, and 26th at the draft, which this year is going to be at Lambeau Field?
So hearing you talk about all that stuff, it just kind of, I want to throw you a curveball here. And I trust that, you watch pretty much every minute of football that's played anywhere in the world. You know how to scout. You know what there is when it's there. There's a guy from Rio Linda, suburb of Sacramento, that had a couple of snaps for Arizona State and Sac State before that. What do you think? Certainly not 11 for the Niners, but what do you think the NFL prospects, if there are for a guy like Cam Scadaboo?
I really have to get into it. I did watch him on New Year's Day, and that was a epic performance, even from walking into the stadium wearing the McCaffrey jersey. Yeah. I know Christian liked it, and then he just went off. So, he's got multi-skills. You really had, to be honest with you, I just glanced at him one game.
Gotcha.
And he had an impressive game. So you'd have to, like even the guys that I was watching last night, I'm drooling over Abdul Carter, number 11. Yeah. But does he line up always over the right tackle? Does he ever go to the other side? Did he just do that because his left shoulder was jacked last night and he had to use his inside power arm? That guy chases down from the backside. He looks like LT. Remember the LT clip? I get back into the game. I'm going to get you guys. I'm like a wounded dog. It's like just the way he chased down from the backside, it was like, whoa. I've never seen anybody chase across the entire width of the field on the backside. That's Lawrence Taylor. Like, who does that? So that guy, but even him, I'm getting carried away. I haven't watched, so I just don't watch college football. I'm so busy on Saturday because I do a radio show, every day, and the real hard prep for me. I'm prepping all week for the game, but the real hard prep for me is, Saturday is you shut the blinds day and turn my world off. I got to walk through and watch what our team's doing, but I have college football on all day, but I'm just listening to it, and it's just coming through osmosis. I'm not studying it. So, but this year, because we have a high draft pick, I'm lobbying our station to send me to the combine. But I've never been to the combine. I'd love to go there. That would be fun for me. I love the process of everything, the packing and poding, and looking at the guys and all the drilling. It's just, and then to have a high pick, and then I'd like to go to the draft itself. Lambeau would be a lot of fun this year. We'll see. But as far as Scattaboo, I know our guys were talking about him after his performance, and I got my kids, my son Derek went to Arizona State before transferred to Texas, so that particular bowl game we were glued on. But I just glanced at him. I'd have to look at the skill set. I mean, what kind of 40 time is he going to run?
Mm-hmm.
Where does he really translate in the NFL as a 3-down back? Is he a 2-down back? I mean, I just looking at him, he looks like a guy with a cool name and a guy that had a hell of a bowl game. And I know our guys in the locker room are kind of taken away by him a little bit. But even going down to Arizona to play them last game, that's all their media was talking about was Scattaboo. Could Arizona get him? That's all, But realistically, where does he project in the NFL? I couldn't answer that right now, but ask me in about 2 months, and I may have an answer for you.
Okay, so this might line up, Greg. So when's the draft date officially?
I think April 24, 25, 26.
Okay, so I'm looking ahead here. I'm thinking April 9th, you make your way up to Sacramento.
Yeah.
Come in the studio with Dave and I. After the show, we all go to watch the A's host the Padres.
Ooh.
Then later that night, the Kings are at home, Golden One Center, and the Nuggets. I mean, come on. We got a day.
Why, is that the only night where we got A's in the day? The A's played a day game?
Yeah, 12:30 day game, then the Kings and Nuggets at 7.
What day of the week is this?
It's a Wednesday. Maybe you could do your show up here or something. And
right now, what would be amazing is if the Giants are playing a day game that day somewhere, then I wouldn't have a show because we get preempted. I've never been to your studio. Are you inviting me up?
Yes. And if you do have a show, we got room for you to do your show from here.
Let's do it. Well, the show kind of overlaps the A's game, but I do want to go see the A's play here in West Sac. That's going to be, how much I am into the A's. And,
my goodness.
That's going to be kind of weird. So, April 9th, let's do it.
Greg, the Giants are at home with the Reds at 12:45.
Let's go!
Oh, stars are aligning.
Let's go.
April 9th.
Right now. Give me a wave-o. I'm out. I'm out the door.
That's perfect.
It's happening.
Yeah, and we'll just be
all organic.
We'll just be recovered.
That is a day. That's a day.
If we get.
You guys are lucky now because you got baseball there. You had baseball. The River Cats have always been entertaining. But that Major League Baseball there, you got to pull off the schedule and see how many of those daily doublés you guys can pull off where you do a A's game in the day and a Kings game at night, or vice versa. When Kings hopefully make the playoffs or play a rare day game. I did that a lot as a broadcaster. I would do a Oakland A's game in the day and then run across the parking lot, go over at night and do a Golden State Warriors basketball game. So you got to pull off the schedule and see how many of those daily doublés you can pull off in Sac this year.
April 9th, Greg Papa Day.
Well,
yeah. I'm in.
And if we can get...
I'm marking it down right now.
We can get KNBR and KCK to get off their wallets. We'll have just recovered from our trip to Indianapolis for the Combine on the 27th.
Right after I go with my annual meeting with my CPA. Like to see you guys and spend more money.
Well, look, a lot of, as we wrap up, not to end on a down note, but we said this with Matt Barrows and anyone we talk to. And by the way, whenever we talk to anybody else about the 49ers, just know we're always thinking of you, Greg. And, when you look back at the season, I don't need to go through the litany of things, but when your rookie first round wide receiver getting shot in the chest is maybe the third worst thing that happened to the team this year, you know it was a cursed season. And here's to an off season where everyone gets healthy, everybody gets paid, everybody gets happy, and we can just erase this sucker and get back to gunning for titles next year.
I'm afraid to ask, but what would be the top two worst things to happen?
No, honestly, I was thinking
number 3. What was 1 and 2?
I was thinking honestly with Trent Williams and Mooney Ward and what they were dealing with off. I mean, legitimately, it really is. It's been such a cursed season off the field, and we're not even talking about Ayuk knee injuries and all the other stuff. It really does seem like this was one of the worst years in Niner history when you bring in expectations and everything else. So fingers crossed that everybody gets healthy mentally and physically, and we're all able to, like I said, gun for championships next year.
No, I'm with you. I'm going to be coming up through and go skiing. And I'm going to come to Golden One before April 9th. But April 9th, we are doing it.
Let's go.
Let's do that. It'll be so fun.
Awesome. So it's not goodbye. It's see you later.
And I'm only a phone call away.
I know.
If you guys have anything, and when they make Robert Saleh official as the defensive coordinator next week sometime, and you want me to come on or whatever they do, sign a big free. They got a lot of money to sign. I don't know where they're going to, they got to allocate bringing their own people back. And I think that's always the first thing. Can they afford to bring back Trey? But, whenever anything comes up or Warriors, Kings, whatever you want, or we want to talk A's and reminisce about Raleigh Fingers and the wax in his mustache, whatever you want, I'm here. I'm here for you.
We appreciate that, Wayne, and we appreciate you each and every year, Mr. Papa. Appreciate you. We'll see you in April. We'll talk to you soon.
Happy New Year. I know we're not supposed to say it on January the 10th, but damn. We need a happier New Year in 25. Yes. 24 was a bitch.
Yeah. We'll see you soon, Greg. That's a perfect ending. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
All right.
See you, brother.
Clip that up.
We'll take a break. When we come back. Four down territory was an 8:28. I thought it went well.
It did. You want to repeat it?